today's topic is imagine life without addiction. What would it really look like? So for those who are new to the channel, my name's Ashley Bloxham. I'm a therapist. I specialise in childhood and trauma, but I'm also an addictions counsellor. I've studied it right the way up to PhD level, but I've overcame addiction, which I honestly think qualifies as the most to be here talking about it. I also know what it's like to have loved ones who struggle in addiction. So today's topic is imagine your life without addiction. What would that look like? So one of the techniques that I use in counselling often is called the miracle question. It's solution focused therapy. And it's this idea of imagining what your life would look like if you woke up the next day and it was different. So we put a lot of time, energy into addiction, and we don't need to stop the addiction, but one thing we can do is just imagine what that life would look like. And even if you're in early stages of recovery and you're feeling like this isn't that great, because a lot of people, they get into addiction recovery and they're like, the addiction's looking more fun, to be honest with you. I'm a bit bored. So look at that like ideal life and start to map it out. What would your day look like? What would you be doing differently? What would your dream job be, or relationships, or whatever? Because we put so much energy into addiction that if we could just redirect that into something else, you can literally create a dream life. We put so much energy, hustling, time, effort, that you could literally carve out a brand new life. So it's good just to start thinking about it. You don't need to do it yet, but just thinking about it, priming you to stop the addiction. And we need to just get our minds in recovery orientated, not necessarily stopping the thing straight away. Hi, I do. Yes, have we got a one-to-one today? Is that right? Hello, Darren, how are you doing? Yeah, why is skin? I feel like we've got a one-to-one today, if that's you, the right person. It's hard with the handles. So we imagine this life, this recovered life, and look, we've spent a lot of time like really feeling shit in addiction. The majority of people do not enjoy it because addiction is a problem that you want to stop, that you can't stop. So if we want to stop something, we can't stop it. It's clearly a life we're not enjoying. So we get to imagine this whole new life. And I want you to like go all out with it, because we've spent so much time feeling shit that we deserve now to live the rest of our life out being amazing, and just start dreaming big. And the thing is, why your son is saying that's your person. Yeah, I've got you for after this, I think it is. The thing is, like, dream big as well, because the thing is, when you're in addiction, you literally are like hustling, you're putting so much time and energy into it. Often we're like, to begin with at least, but some of us right the way to the end, like myself, often we're functioning. That is really difficult. So you are literally, you're primed for making difficult things happen, because surviving addiction is fucking difficult. So imagine what you could create if you intentionally decide, this is what I want my life to look like. And also, the thing with addiction is you feel like shit, and a lot of people feel ashamed and not good about themselves. So realistically, one thing I experienced was very humbling. So I might as well just put myself out there and just go for this like amazing life. I might as well do that thing. So yeah, how's everyone doing anyways? Hi Guy, how you doing? Congratulations Guy on monetizing. Guy's got a really cool channel, you should go check it out. It's about him and his dog. It's very cute. Alexander, wow, thanks. I don't know what you're saying wow to. Connor, I don't know how you say that. Is it pink? Is what pink? Morning, Alex. Jank, what's your name? So can we just have normal names, guys? What? It's not good. It's not disability friendly for dyslexia. Right, Jank. Wow, you look like you were very pretty when you were young. Thank you. I feel like I've got prettier with age. I think I was very one of the things for me, and I do think this probably contributed to my addiction in some ways, because yeah, I think it definitely did. It's certainly using drugs, but I used to feel like really ugly, and I used to put myself down, and I used to feel inferior compared to everyone. I used to, honestly, I just was horrible to myself. I was like my own worst, like, what do you call it? what's opposite to like an enemy? I was like a little enemy to myself. And I was so mean. But then when I started, I remember I moved to Ibiza and I got wrecked on drugs, and I remember I just stopped giving a fuck what people thought about us. And that was the first time that I felt like comfortable in my own skin. And I think that was part of why I started falling in love with drugs. But yeah, I feel like I've got prettier with age because I've just started like loving myself a bit more. So in my eyes, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Elizabeth, cool accent. Are you from Ireland? No, it's Newcastle, England, north of England. Do you have a private talk about addiction, Sam? So if anyone wants to go to my website, I do free one-to-ones. It's just like a one-off. It's not like full counselling. I don't charge. But yeah, it's just a one-to-one. And then also if you need extra support, I'll get you in the right place. So just go to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, if that's something you want, and Sam, or anyone listening. Thank you, Joanne. That's really nice to say. Kevin, stay clean. You're too beautiful to lose your talents. Yeah, I think as well, people who are addicted, a lot of people are really creative. Not everyone, but I'd say a lot of people who are addicted, and this isn't, again, always, but it tends to be people who are really sensitive. So Gabor Mate talks about this, like, if you're highly sensitive, you're more likely to have an addiction, ADHD or depression. So it's not a genetic component. It's more that if you're highly sensitive, you're more susceptible. And he said if we're in the right conditions, you'd be the intuitive people, like the creative people. Car, you can called. Are you married? I am not married. Super. Oh, she is beautiful and breathtaking. I love her eyes. They are mesmerising. They say get me. Thank you. They're not saying get us. They're saying do not get me. Please. Yeah, Sam saying do you have private therapy? I think I've answered that before. What addiction did I have? I used to have an addiction to ketamine, but my psychiatrist, when I got diagnosed with ADHD, said that I had an addiction to mind-altering substances. So I just literally wasn't sober in the whole of my 20s and early 30s, but I think I was self-medicating ADHD, he reckons. I also think I was self-medicating a lot of trauma. Show us some old pictures. I've put one of my old pictures up on my YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel. To be honest with you, I didn't say, like, you don't really take photos. I don't know anyone who's had a drug addiction on here, because I know there's lots of different addictions and some people haven't. But like, if you're taking photos of yourself looking at an absolute fucking clip, you're not thinking, ooh, I'll save that. That's something I want to see when I'm older. I'll post it on Instagram. So a lot of them I've deleted, but there was one where I thought I looked good because I had done my hair, makeup. It was actually for my sister's birthday, and I look ill, even though I've tried my best. So I've put that one up on my YouTube, but generally don't have that many photos. It wasn't it wasn't a look that I wanted to like plaster everywhere. Okay, who's your favourite darts player? I find it so incredibly boring. I'm ADHD, so my attention span is not built for darts. I would like a one-to-one. Yeah, well, Dad, go onto my if you go on my YouTube page, there's my website's on there. I think Guy might have pinned it. Yeah, it's basically schoolofaddiction.co.uk. Right. Quora is saying, how important is it having right friends when you are on your way back to recovery? Like, my friends always discuss adult stuff, so I find it hard for myself to manage while I'm trying to beat addiction. It's so important. If it's a good friend, I don't know your situation, but if it's a good friend, one thing I've done, so for me, what I had to do with my friends, this is like a personal way. If anyone's watching who's had this issue, because I know a lot of people who've been in active addiction have had to remove themselves from certain friendship groups or friends, which is really sad. But you do have to decide, is it me or them? Because going back into addiction, it's so hard to pull yourself out of it into recovery, and it's not a guarantee. Like, I know people who've literally got all the way to the deathbeds and have died as an addict. So it's not a guarantee because it takes that much strength. So it is a question like, am I going to choose me or them? But one thing that I did is certain friendships like dealers, stuff like that, just removed myself from, because a lot of my friends just dealed. A couple of friendships who I was really close with, I tried to redefine the friendship. So I just literally had a conversation saying like, look, like, I need you to not talk about it. I need you to not bring it around us. Like, if we're going to spend time together, it's going to be in a different capacity. And one of the friends I managed to keep after that. One of them I had to get rid of because they just brought Ket into my house. And I ended up relapsing. Well, lapsing. Luckily, I picked myself up the next day. But yeah, so with adult stuff, I assume you talked about porn. So it's whether you feel comfortable enough to have the conversation, say, look, I'm having a break from porn. I've noticed I'm just like watching too much of it. You can just be chill about it. Like, I'm sure we've all been there. Like, we've all been there watching too much of it. So can you just not talk about it because you're just making us want to go watch porn? So fair if you just wouldn't talk about it. So if it's a good friend will respect your boundaries. So it might be a case of like boundaries or redefining friendships. And Kevin is saying addiction comes in many forms. Only way to beat it is don't do it. It is as simple as that, but we also need to accept that, you know, a lot of us have decided I'm not going to do it anymore, and that's not been enough. Like, the amount of times I'm just not going to do it, honestly, hundreds, and then it would get to 6 o'clock the next day and I'm doing it. Like, I am doing it so much. So yeah, that went on for years. But yeah, it is as simple as just not doing it. And when I quit vaping recently, I just thought the amount of times I wanted to pick up a vape, I was just like, no, because you're always going to want to do it. So just don't do it. Just, you're going to have to stop at some point, just stop. So yeah, it is like as simple as that. Just harder to execute. Psychiatric medicine or a Torah. I don't know what a Torah is, so can't comment. Well, Dad, it's schoolofaddiction.co.uk. Oh, natural medicine. So I think the medication, I'm not anti-medication. Medication saved my life as somebody with bipolar. However, I have worked very hard to get off it and replace it with holistic methods. And that's took a year of being on meds, and then I still have to have PRM meds, etc. And I've had to like do loads of stuff. So I think ideally diet, sleep, exercise, connection are huge for our body's chemistry and our brain chemistry. So often that is supportive and we can deal with a lot of issues that way holistically. That's my thought though, but like meds have saved my life, so yeah. Yeah, Richard, just go to my website. And I'll send you me Calendly link and we can book it in. Roger, you remind me of Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. I don't know who she is. Thought another shrimp on the barbie. I'm not Australian. I live in Newcastle in England. There's fucking about 3 barbecue opportunities a year. And I'm vegetarian, so I ain't throwing no shrimps anywhere. Right, Kevin, serious question. Rate your head game from a 1 to 10, 10 being really great and 1 not at all. Head game. What do you mean by head game? Kurt, yes, it's true. I changed my phone number so I could ditch all my coke buddies. Yeah, I had to get, look, I've got to say, I just don't have the only friends, in fact, the only people, I've had to literally get rid of so many people in my life. When I made the decision to stop being an addict, it's not just, I'm going to stop taking the thing, I'm going to stop doing the behaviour. It's a lifestyle change, and you need to remove triggers. And a huge trigger for addiction is depression. So depression is like depressing people and situations in your life. Like if you've got depressing people and depressing circumstances, they need to be addressed. Not necessarily go maybe revamped boundaries, but addressed, so that they're not depressing you any longer. And you also need to create a new life. Now, look, let's be real, especially in drug addiction. I know it's probably different for other addictions, but for drug addiction, which oh, the messages moved away, I can't remember who. Yeah, Kurt Miller was saying, and myself, like, realistically, am I going to be hanging around with my dealer mates, everybody getting off the nut, like sitting there? Honestly, it just doesn't, that life is not the life that is in alignment with not being addicted. Like sitting mongy off my face with all my friends. Like, it was fun, then people are lush, but like they're not my tribe because they were my addicted tribe. So unfortunately, a lot of the time we do have to just remove people. And the problem with people is they are the worst triggers because they are walking, talking triggers, and your brain associates them with getting wrecked. I know, I think you meant to say, I think if Finkel, Finkel Dinkle, you meant to be saying wanga, but also at first I thought you were saying winner, and then I realised you were saying it loads. Like, look, you can take perspective, it looks like you're spelling out winner, like W, 2 letters, N-E, I don't know if that's me being dyslexic or not. Right, let's see what other people are saying. And let's be real, if someone's just going on writing wanga, sorry, with like correcting 2 of the letters, I feel like you are the wanga. I'm just putting that out there, for God's sake. Sent a request for an appointment. I'll get round to replying today. I've got a few notifications on my YouTube to get round to as well. Bear the Conqueror, connection, question mark. What do you mean by connection? Is overthinking also an addiction, or is it a disorder? That's a bit of a difficult question. It's subjective to the individual. Overthinking, so when we are thinking, often overthinking is linked in with anxiety, because what happens when you have an anxiety, you're going into a state of fight or flight. And then what happens is, in a state of fight or flight, is your body is like, think of it like your body's accelerators. It's like, okay, there's a perceived threat. Right now, I need to act to the best of my ability to get out of this situation alive. So that's what fight or flight is. It's like, it's responding to a perceived threat. Now, the thing is, our brains learn in the 21st century because we don't have like saber-toothed tigers and all these things that we're meant to be protecting ourselves from. We have things like emails from our boss freak us out, or that person gave us a funny look, or whatever it is. So our brain isn't the best at interpreting what actual threat is. It's based off like outdated data. But your brain hits it's like your body's accelerators go off because it's like a perceived threat. And what happens in this is your thoughts speed up, so they go about 7 times as fast. And the reason why this happens is you need to think fast to, am I going to fight? Am I going to run? Am I going to go hide over there? How am I going to keep myself safe? So what's happening with overthinking often is that you are in a constant state of fight or flight. So you're constantly hitting your body's accelerators. So you're thinking really fast. So then it becomes habitual. So not so much addiction, but habitual, which is similar to addiction, because addiction is habitual as well as other things. So yeah, it's generally linked in with fight or flight. Now, it can also be a disorder, because if you look at ADHD, where you tend to overthink, like you're thinking really fast, that is because you've grown up with your brain's getting wired whilst being in a constant state of accelerators on. So yeah, so I don't think the why is as important. Overthinking is essentially, think of it like faulty accelerators. We're constantly in a state of fight or flight. We're overthinking. So that's what's going on. So from the what, we can think, right, now we've got to hit the body's brakes. And you can literally practice hitting the body's brakes like multiple times a day, and your overthinking should calm down. If it's a disorder, it's going to be much harder. So you'll be able to turn the dial down. But it's more about like accepting, okay, I do overthink, but I'm going to try and like have nice thoughts. I think that's what I've had to do with my having ADHD. Like, accept or overthink. I've got ADHD. It's pretty tough to completely change. Let's try and get nice thoughts. Triffy agreed. A good friend will value your worth, but there are other obstacles and scenarios at play. It literally comes down to what's best for you. Yeah, this is the thing. I won't ever say get rid of your friends, but that is what it's very consistent that people who've ended up in successful recovery have had to remove themselves from friends. But it is ultimately down to you. Are you the only counsellor? Yeah, so I don't do counsel. I am a counsellor, but I don't do counselling. It's just a one-off, like a one-to-one. I don't have a service. I'm just, the reason why I'm doing it is because obviously on YouTube, I feel like it's not ethical if somebody's needing more than just like writing a sentence and me replying. So it's just to keep, like, make sure that people are getting supported correctly. So it's mainly to like have a one-to-one and then get you to the right place. So if you need counselling, obviously I'll try and get you referred to somewhere local. Mark is saying, just come in and subscribe. Thank you. Yeah, if anyone could give us a subscribe, that's so helpful to the channel, helping us get to the right people. It's free. What did I scroll into a meeting? It's just so I'm a therapist. For those who are new to the channel, I'm a therapist and in addictions counsellor, but also specialise in childhood and trauma. And I'm just do a live Q&A, but I'd answer do a little topic in the beginning and then just answer questions. So if anyone's got any questions around addiction or mental health, feel free to post them, and if I get to see it, I'll answer. Obviously I get a lot of comments, so. Hi, Silva, how you doing? Thank you, that's kind. Just your druggy friends, that's all you have in common. I've got to say, yeah, on one hand, like, that is how you end up getting in common, but I will say that it's a bit like trauma bonding as well. So it's like your tribe. So like any situation where you're going through something like a shared experience, naturally you're gonna bond, especially men. And I know a lot of people on my channel are men, because you bond with vasopressin. So I think men find this particularly hard because you bond with groups, you bond through vasopressin the same way that men bond with women, and women bond with oxytocin. So it's the same bonding chemicals that you get in relationships, like romantic relationships, you will produce when you're bonding with people who you're having a shared experience with. This is why veterans are like absolutely solid, because it's a shared intense experience. So you bond together, it's like a brotherhood. So there's a chemical element to it. I've got to say, like, the friends I made when I was in active addiction, like, they got me through the hardest times of my life. Like, I think about one of my best friend, who actually I ended up like kind of separating from, and then he's like ended up sorting himself out, and we've ended up like reconnecting as friends. But like my best friend, like the hardest situations that I went through and that he went through, and like feeling suicidal, him trying to commit suicide, like really feeling so fucking low and not having anyone else to talk to, that was my friends in addiction. So it is really hard to walk away, and I wouldn't say just my druggy friends. They were the only people who knew what was actually going on in my life as a functioning addict, and also the only people who weren't judging us when I came out of it. Because realistically, the only people in my life who didn't judge us were the people who were ex-addicts or the people who were in active addiction, and they were the people who got us out of our addiction. So yeah, it is really hard to walk away from friends. You know, I think sometimes on this channel I say things flippantly, like, oh, just do this or just do that. And it's not as simple as that in addiction. It's really fucking hard, and it's so sad to say, like, I'm gonna have to remove myself. And also, we need friends. So removing yourself from your tribe of people to then thinking, well, now who do I speak to? And for me, I lent into the friends who weren't addicted and reconnected on them friendships, and those are solid friendships in my life now. Show us your hands. No, that is not why I'm here for. Alex, um, oh, sorry, I'm just seeing Daz there. Make me your stay-at-home husband. I am poor. If you think that I've got enough money to support you, and also like it's enough just me and my son, Daz. I've had enough. Me and my son is just enough. Like having to look after one toddler's fine. I can't be arsed with looking after grown arsed men. Alex, I got rid of my good friends when I had to recover. I came back and they understood years later. Most said they worried about me and had to stay away for their own good. Yeah, and this is the thing. You realistically, a good friend would want the best for you. And yeah, I'm the same. I've reconnected with one of my friends, and actually, I talked about dealer, like saying a lot of my friends were dealers. I bumped in. So my friend who was a dealer lived opposite us. It was a fucking nightmare. Worst trigger in the world. So I ended up like just cutting my friends off, like a big group of friends. And I actually saw him like years later, and like I honestly thought he was gonna die. He'd been in rehab a few times. It was just like I've never seen somebody with a worse addiction. And I saw him and he was sober and he's doing amazing. And it was so nice to have that little moment of like, you're doing amazing, I'm doing amazing. I love that for you. And like, so any decent human being would want the best for you, but you've got to want the best for you too. 420 was saying, Daz, don't be a creep. Yeah, I've got enough dependents, Daz. I've got 2 dogs and a toddler. Like, that is enough people and things in my house. Hi, Psychedelic. I'm continuing to decorate my apartment. I picked up lamps, pictures, and decorative items, like bowls from 9 different people on Marketplace in the last 2 days. That's a lot of work. I love that. Psychedelic, that was one of the best things I did. One of the first and best things I did when I came out of my addiction. I just looked around at my house and thought, wow, this looks like... In fact, my friends used to call my house a crack den, because it was just like, it was falling a bit because it was the session house of choice. So I just started decorating, and just, it's little wins. Like, you get to look at like a little thing that you've done. You're like, I've done that, and it makes you feel proud, and it's like, what do you call it, quantifiable progress. So I love that for you. Some were still hesitant because of the fact that most people do not change and do not get better. It's not that they don't have the ability to do it, but facing yourself is difficult. Yeah, Alex, the thing is, it isn't, yeah, that's so true. It's not that you don't have the ability to do it. It's just, you just feel like you can't, because you have so many failed attempts. And our brains work off data, we collect data, and then that becomes our truth. So I don't know many addicts. I've came across very few people who've been in active addiction who have just stopped first time. There's some unicorns out there, but the majority of people try to stop and can't. And if you're trying to stop and you can't, then you start to collect this data that I can't do this, it's impossible, and every time it feels more and more deflating. So even though, you when you do it, you're like, actually, fucking hell, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. It was rough, but it wasn't impossible. But yeah, it feels impossible. I'll say it all the time, but it's like when you go through that first heartbreak and you're like, fucking hell, I am never ever going to be able to get through this. And then you realise that actually it was absolutely fucking shocking. It was so brutal, but I got through it. Alex is saying, Chris, I'm 8 years clean from fent and smoke herbs daily. Best case, no, but definitely better than this alternative. Look, Alex, I know so many people who do the same as you, and honestly, fucking hats off to you. Hats off to you, because realistically, it like hard drugs or like severe alcohol addiction versus weed addiction, like so much better quality of life, longevity of life, so it's so good. And I'm not gonna say, like, yeah, hats off to you, like, and the fact you've got off Fent is amazing. Like, let's put praise where praise is due. So I know loads of people who are like that, but I also, on the flip side, know a lot of people whose lives have been ruined by weed as well. You remind me of that times I was going through prison, because You have to get counsel there. What do you mean by counsel? What? I don't understand what you mean, Richard. Could you reword that? Mortov, she is brilliant trauma-informed therapist, an excellent resource for knowledge and experience. Thank you. That was so kind. Narvik, I am thinking, what would happen if I got sober? What would happen to me and my partner smoke a lot? Narvik, why don't we have a one-to-one? But I think it's good. That's a good question. That's what I started off as. So it's actually a therapeutic tool. It's called the miracle question, and explore that. Like literally write down like what would happen if I was going to stop. The reason why it's so good is because in addiction, we're working off the parts of our brain which is like impulsive action. It's the limbic system. It's all like, now I need that now. It's impulsive, and it's the emotional part of our brain. Now just sitting there and thinking about your future, like what would that look like, that's the rational part of your brain. It's also responsible for long-term thinking, which, you know, thinking about what would it look like is long-term thought processing. And that's the part of your brain which is also importantly responsible for impulse control. So the more you think about like the future and what that might look like, and you can literally design it, get creative, like might as well. The more you think about that, the more you're strengthening the wiring in that part of your brain. And actually, if and when you decide to stop, you're going to find it easier to tackle impulses. So make it a daily exercise. Think about, what would my life look? What would I be doing now if I was sober? You don't even need to get sober. You just think about, what would I be doing now? What would I plan out today? Just start observing what you're doing and what would be different. I always say this, if we're not ready to stop now, we don't need to stop now. Like harm reduction, absolutely. But sometimes we need to be realistic and say, I'm not ready. But what I can start to do is flirt with the idea of what life might look like if I was ready. And honestly, the sky's your limit. So for me, when I got sober, I literally was like, I want to do something on social media. I want to write a book. I want to start up my own business. And I started coming up with these huge, big ideas, because why the fuck not? Like literally, why not? I've just like spent the whole of my 20s off my nut, like planet fucking wrecked. And I've wasted all my 20 years of my 20s like that. Like, why not do something fucking phenomenal with my life? And the more you think about stuff like this, the more it's going to be planting those little seeds. So when you do stop, you're more likely to do it. Bear the Conqueror. So you agree that men can bond with multiple sex partners and still be good partners? Well, technically now I am very monogamous. Like I've got two, I don't know if it's because I'm autistic or what, but I've got too much of a moral compass to deal with cheating. But technically we are not meant to be monogamous. We're just not built that way. So like if you look at women, we all cycle up with, meant to cycle up with the moon, but our periods all cycle up. And the reason for that is, for our ancestors, is that men used to go away and hunt, and they would come back to a little cave where all the women were, and then they would sleep with the kind of the top girl, the most fertile. So the girls are seen as pretty based on like health things. So it's like how fertile they are is like signals of what's pretty to men. It's all subconscious. So they would sleep with the most fertile woman, and all the other women would have the same ovulation time, and then sleep with as many other women after that. And that is literally about evolution. Like Mother Nature is not bothered about monogamy. So yeah. But can you be a good polyamorous? I know I've worked with polyamorous couples and they've been happy, and actually said that it's built more on trust because they've had to be very open about the relationship. So I guess you could be a good partner with multiple partners, but cheating, multiple partners, I would say a very bad partner, like realistically. So yeah. But it's interesting if you look at like how marriage came about and like how we're actually supposed to be as humans. I'm getting Amy Winehouse vibes. I love that. I fucking love Amy Winehouse. I can't understand you, British, how you talk. It's Newcastle. It's a bit of a dodgy accent, I'm not gonna lie. My twang is too heavy. Jados. I actually speak quite well for someone from Newcastle. I've got like a posh twang, believe it or not. Oh, hi, Cumin commenting. I've just seen you there. How you doing? I'm the same. I couldn't imagine sharing a partner. Nah, I couldn't cheat. I couldn't even flirt with somebody. I am like insanely monogamous. But I think that's more, I don't like lying. I don't like I don't know if it's because I'm autistic, to be honest with you. I'm just really fucking riddled with autism. It makes us feel uncomfortable. Like I don't. But also, I had my first ever person that I was in a proper relationship with. He'd been cheated on by multiple people, and it really destroyed his like ability to trust. And I don't know if that was a factor of it. Like I saw how much it affected someone, and I thought I don't ever want to do that to someone. Because to be fair, I was a pretty shit girlfriend back then. I was a proper little diva, horrible. Horrible little brat, to be honest. But I never cheated. So, but yeah, I've been cheated on loads of times, and it's really not good. It's not good for people. And look, you can't go back from it. So like realistically, you might be thinking, oh, I want to do that now, but the majority of people who cheat are normally the ones crying like babies at the end of it, because then they want something they can't have. You can't really, you don't know what future you's going to do. Just like have some fucking balls and end it. I say, grow some, end it, go sleep with somebody else. Quora, sometimes I get super angry on some random person out of no reason. Just angry and want to slap them. Does that happen with you guys? Like getting super angry on someone out of no reason? I would say there's probably a reason. It probably seems like not a reason, but it's usually, like, if you think of it, like, we all have like emotional wounds, and usually these wounds, you know, they might have been, usually they go right the way back to childhood. So I'll give you an example. I had sexual abuse, like was sexually abused, and I was doing something called havening, where they basically you disconnect the trigger, because I had PTSD from it. So you disconnect the triggers through this type of therapy called havening. And when we really looked back to it, even though the sexual abuse happened when I was 16, that was the thing which was causing PTSD, we could thread it even further back to really early childhood, where obviously I'm autistic, I've mentioned, so I get sensory difficulties. And when my mum used to tickle us, or my stepdad used to tickle us as a kid, I used to find that like really horrific, because it was such sensory overload. So, and I would try and say no, and they couldn't understand that when I was saying no and hitting them and lashing out, that was because it felt awful to us. So for me, I learned that I couldn't say no, like, because it just got ignored, or I would get told off for like kicking and hitting when I was saying no. So as a young child, I learned that I can't say no. Then that fed into this sexual abuse, and it was that same like lack of control over my body. So if we think about, like, usually what's happening is it might feel like nothing, but it usually traces back to a wound from when you're younger. And like, that's my kind of trace. And then when somebody does something, it's almost like a wound that's not been healed, like a physical wound. If I had like a broken arm or something like that, and someone, it might feel okay, but if someone knocks it, I'm gonna go, fuck off, you cunt, that really hurt. Do you know what I mean? Really big a reaction because someone's just touched it lightly. So if you're getting angry, what's probably happening is that little emotional wound is being hit, and it's having a big reaction. And usually that wound goes back to childhood, even if it's been layered upon in later life. Because we don't just get really angry for no reason. It doesn't happen. Unless you're a woman and you're hormonal and someone's doing something to piss you off. But even then, they're doing something to piss you off, and I'm hormonal. KGN. I think people self-diagnose themselves too much today. Everyone thinks they're autistic and stuff when really they're just idiots. I mean, I was actually diagnosed. I didn't diagnose myself. And also, like, nobody that I told that nobody was surprised when I said I was autistic. But my two best friends, I phoned them up and I was like, I've just had my results for my autism test, and I was like, I'm not autistic. And my friend was like, what? You're not autistic? And I was like, no, I'm joking, I am. So they were like in shock when I was joking. But also, why would you diagnose yourself as autistic? I find it really funny when people say this, like, there's not, like, what's the upside of diagnosing yourself as autistic, like, when you're not? It just doesn't make sense. Human is saying same. I was diagnosed with autism, which was such a relief. Yeah, it is. I mean, I think I was most relieved when I was diagnosed with ADHD, because that was the first time I was like, oh my god, I'm not just a failing human being. Because I just genuinely felt like why am I so fucking different to everybody else? And I blamed myself, like, I wasn't, it was some kind of failing on my part. And then when you get a diagnosis, it is a massive relief, isn't it? You're like, oh, thank fuck, it's just a bunch of symptoms, not a personality default. Elijah, I think I'm Asperger's, but they don't use that word anymore. So Asperger's is just autistic now. I think what they've realised is that, like, the symptoms can present in varying ways. Like, there's different flavours of autism. So instead of having two separate things, they've put it together. But look, let's be real. All diagnoses are just social constructs. Like, it's a group of people sitting down, deciding this bunch of symptoms is autism. You know, like, it is just a made up thing. Like, so it doesn't matter if it's Asperger's or autism or ADD or ADHD or just neurodivergent or not neurodivergent. It's just a bunch of it's a bunch of symptoms which make you different to somebody who doesn't have those symptoms, and often are problematic. Hi Chris, how you doing? I've just seen you there. Elijah, I don't really want to be diagnosed with autism. It's not like being prescribed meds, like with ADHD meds. Yeah, so originally I got prescribed with ADHD, and that psychiatrist said, I think you're autistic as well. So that was my original, and he was like, so I went private. He said it's going to be like 600 and something pounds to get diagnosed with autism if you go now. If not, it's like over 1,000 or whatever. And I just thought, what's the point? Like, you don't get meds. The reason why I went for the diagnosis is I've tried, so I've got like a cluster of diagnosis, which is really common. So if you have one, you're more likely to have multiple. So I've got ADHD, autism, and bipolar. And the thing when I got sectioned was I thought I need to know what the hell is going on with this, so I know how to just create things to help my life be easier. So you don't need the diagnosis, no, but if you feel like you've got autism, I can send you like an online test that you can do, which isn't a diagnosis, but it can give you a rough idea if you're likely to have it or not. Just through knowing its knowledge, and with knowledge we can then learn, okay, what's really going on and how can I scaffold my weaknesses and how can I hone in on my strengths to make life a bit easier. Especially with things like addiction. Often if we've got an addiction, it might be because we've got undiagnosed disorders and we're using the addiction to buffer them. So if we understand the disorders, then we can start to say, okay, what can I do instead to support myself so that I don't need the addiction? Eric, what language are you speaking? Like a sub genre of English. I don't know if there's subtitles. Let's maybe get them up. Right. KJ, I did ACT therapy to deal with my trauma, and it's worked wonders with my PTSD. ACT, what's ACT again? What does ACT stand for? I feel like I know this. I might. It's what does ACT stand for? Does anyone know? But yeah, just so somebody's saying there that ACT, whatever it stands for, is meant to be good for working with CPTSD, which CPTSD is childhood PTSD, so it's like childhood trauma. I found that for me, for my PTSD, that therapy worked great, but the missing link was somatic healing. So I've done somatic therapies and that did wonders for me. So I did havening, but you can do EMDR havening and just working on like chilling out your body, like working on things like posture and just relaxing and just look. I know it sounds really lame, but honestly, when your body feels tense, it's sending signals to your brain that we're in fight or flight. So it's like a biofeedback loop. So by relaxing your body and into a stance where you would be safe, so like how you would be if you were relaxed and safe, it then sends a signal to your brain like we can chill now. Because actually, especially with PTSD, although we think it's our mind which is responding to threats, so it's we think anxiety's in the brain, it's actually the body which alerts the brain. So if, say for instance, we feel anxious in social settings, it might be like somebody does a micro expression, we're like, oh, they're not a safe person, so then your body will tense up and it'll send a signal to your brain, then your brain will overthink it. It's actually our body, so if you can relax your body, somatic therapies are really good for that as well. But yeah, ACT apparently works. I can't remember what ACT stands for though. Does it have to be a psychiatrist that diagnoses ADHD? I have a phone appointment on the 13th with my shrink. I've been diagnosed with bipolar, GAD and PTSD, but my mates say I'm definitely ADHD autistic. Yeah, so so it's not just a psychiatrist, a psychologist can diagnose as well. I can send you, KJ, if you go out to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, I can send you a little test that you can do online for ADHD. Now, that would make sense because if you've got PTSD, especially if it's been in childhood, like when you're developing, or you're autistic is another reason, because when you're autistic, you have like sensory issues. So like everything's like, imagine the world is dialed up to like 100, like overstimulated. But if you have like childhood trauma or you have autism, what happens is, or your childhood is chaotic, then what happens is you grow up in a state of fight or flight, like a state of hypervigilance. And that's what ADHD is. Essentially, it's your brain developing in a state of fight or flight. So GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, is essentially just anxiety, like what you've had when you've been grown up. So if you've, that would, ADHD and that do get misdiagnosed essentially. So I'm not a psychiatrist, but I think it could be that instead of GAD, you've got ADHD. It does feel like anxiety, constantly 100 mile an hour, overthinking, etc. And bipolar is a mood disorder. So if you've, again, childhood trauma, or it feels like the world feels intense, then you're likely to trigger the genes which have bipolar. So it would make sense you have autism, ADHD and bipolar, and it's exactly what I've got. Mr. Beast donated $100 to what? I don't know what you mean by that. My son's obsessed with Mr. Beast though, and he keeps saying that I'm like Mr. Beast because I told him I do YouTube, and he's like, when you've got as many subscribers as Mr. Beast. I'm like, I didn't even know who he was until my son said, because I've never came on YouTube until I did this, other than to watch Diary of a CEO. But yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. Human commenting, I believe that people develop addictive personalities due to our brains being in a state of despair. So as a result, our brain latches on to the first thing that takes us away from our own reality. Yeah, I think that is a fair description of it. It's self-medicating something, and it's usually emotional wounds, and that does feel like despair. It's like, this feels like a better option than being sober. And it starts off like being fun, but I think there is a behavioural element to it as well, like it's habitual. What's other people's thoughts on it? Bob, PTSD can surface in many forms. Mine was caused by seeing children die, and it comes to the surface if I'm threatened. I've had to leave so many places so I wouldn't seriously hurt people. Yeah, I mean, is yours, are you a veteran, Bob? Just with you saying like children as in multiple. Yeah, PTSD it's just it's severe trauma. It's severe trauma. And have you ever read the book The Body Keeps the Score, Bob? It's just when your body is just like this is so traumatic for the body, like things that we're just not supposed to experience as humans, and then it just sends our body, like our body, then anything that is reminiscent of that is going to go into fight or flight. But it's not a little bit of fight or flight, it's extreme reactions. Mine was from sexual abuse and then some traumas that I had as a child, so I've got PTSD and then obviously that. But yeah, it can happen from loads of things. And look, it can happen, what might feel traumatic as a child as well. You might think, you've got to remember, like, how a child perceives the world is very different to an adult. So you can have things which are really traumatic to a child that as an adult, you can look back on it and think isn't, like, on paper, isn't that traumatic? And also, not everything that is traumatic causes PTSD. But I will say, Bob, was it Bob who said that? Yeah, Bob, have you tried somatic therapies? Our Havening was really good for me. It really helped. But EMDR and Havening can be really helpful, and just somatic healing is really good for trauma, because the book The Body Keeps the Score, essentially what it talks about is we restore trauma in the body. And like I said, the body goes off first, so if your body senses something, it'll instantly trigger it. And we often look at like the brain, so therapies focus on like our thought patterns and, you know, how we think about things, but actually we need to tackle the body as well. And that was like a huge thing for me with PTSD. I remember thinking like, I'm a therapist, but I'm still really struggling. And all of the things that I've learned in my years, like 2 counselling degrees, years of learning about this stuff, isn't working. And then when I started looking into somatic healing, that was the game changer. KJN, I'm gonna have to go soon because I'm desperate for the toilet. I've been like a little kid when I've been holding it in. Just oh, right, I'll answer 2 questions. Right, I was referred to my friend's GRP as God of Porn. Bro, I have watched so much porn, and I've made a little bit of money too, but now I have quit and I'm on my way back to recovery. Hope it ends good. I can't see the comment about somebody saying about porn, but if there's anyone struggling in an active addiction and you're wanting some one-to-one support, or anyone who's just in dire straits, just go to my website schoolofaddiction.co.uk and send us a message. Jack is saying stop touching yourself, that's how you quit porn addiction. Not necessarily. Look, masturbation is really healthy for you. There is a lot of studies, a lot of research around it, so I don't think it's always about that. It might be about taking a break for it and then reintroducing it, like without porn. But it's the fact that you're associating porn or even sex addiction with that. So it's not necessarily about getting rid of the masturbation, although that is a trigger. It might be removing it for a while and then reintroducing it. Because actually it lowers testicular cancer. I can't say that word. You know what I mean? Ball cancer. There's loads of things, and there's loads of research. It de-stresses you, lots of things. So yeah, anyways, I'm gonna KJ saying porn addiction is no joke, and 37 been watching it since the internet came out, and there's more drugs and porn brings you to devilish layers of filth. It's like any addiction, that you build a tolerance to it. And this is like I'm gonna end on this though, because I literally really gonna need to go to the toilet. So it's to do with your dopamine receptors. So what happens is our bodies do not like it when something is out of balance. So when we are flooding our brains with dopamine, with porn or whatever the addiction is, what happens is our brains don't like that. So it tries to achieve balance by the receptors like this, and it has loads of little holes and it plugs in the holes. So it makes it so there's less holes, so less dopamine can go between the two receptors, which means that you're producing less dopamine, which means that the same high you used to get off the porn that you originally watched, you're not getting. So like any addiction, you then have to up the ante. So this is why porn is in something called sex addiction, because often what happens is the porn gets more intense. So start going to more extreme porns, or it might be that you start like talking to real live girls or men. Then it might be that you go into prostitutes. So it like you need more and more intense to get the same hit. So instead of having a bigger line of the drug, so for me, ketamine, 1 key of ketamine used to absolutely spangle us. By the end, I could do gram lines. Same thing with porn. But anyways, I'm gonna go, guys. If anyone could give us a subscribe who hasn't, that's so helpful to the channel and helps us support people. If anybody is needing support, it's free of charge, but just go to my website, schoolofaddiction.co.uk, or if you've sent a comment that I haven't been able to see, again, do that. I'll be back tonight at 9 p.m. GMT time, and if you like the mornings, I'll be Wednesday and Friday at 10 a.m. GMT. But thanks for everyone who joined, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.